This Providence mayor's race is intriguing to me.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
I honestly don't know how to measure it. I really don't. You've got the incumbent Mayor Lorza, who is in the midst of a pretty big controversy right now with the bus strike, none of which I think is his fault, but how you react to it is all about the leadership, and obviously there's developments there. But Dee Dee Witman is the candidate that has a lot of people talking in Providence. She's reportedly invested some serious resources into her campaign, and yet I don't know how to touch, taste, or feel this race. I really don't. So it'll be interesting to talk with her this evening. She is my guest, and we'll get after that momentarily. Great to have you aboard on this Thursday evening. Speaking of mayors, the big story that is kind of semi-shocked everybody. I say semi-shocked for a reason. Is this one. Headline, this young man is one of the most impressive young people I've ever met. He's been a guest on this program. He's been elected and re-elected, and now he's jammed up 8 ways to Sunday. There he was back in 2016 with me. I say this, and I say this with respect. I don't know if this is going to come out right, but I don't really worry about that stuff too much. I told somebody today who had asked me, what's going on with this Mayor Correa? And I said, you know what? He's an impressive young guy. How old is he? Well, he's 26 now. He was elected when he was 23. I said to me, how is that possible? Is he that mature? I said, it kind of reminded me, I might even have said this to him. You remember the movie with Tom Hanks, the movie Big? Where the kid was in the adult's body? He was so impressive and so contained and so articulate that I said to him, I haven't met many people at the age of 23 that have your, brand of gravitas. And I don't throw that kind of language around a lot, in case you've been following, my career around here. And so it's disturbing to see that he's jammed up this way. I talked to him on the show back in 2016 about this app business that he was developing, and he was bringing investors in for, and now he's got problems with it.
Earlier this morning, Fall River Mayor Jazel Correa was arrested and charged with 9 counts of wire fraud and 4 counts of tax fraud, all arising from an alleged multi-year investment scam. Beginning in January 2013 and continuing over the course of 4 years, Correa allegedly convinced 7 people to invest over $363,000 in Snow Owl, a company designing an app to connect local businesses and individuals with a target consumer market. Correa, however, diverted more than $231,000 of that money, about 64%, to fund his political career and extravagant lifestyle and the needs of his other business ventures.
So, wow, huh? Because we taped the program in the early afternoon, we're probably not completely caught up. Reportedly, he was going to respond to the charges in federal court at 2 p.m., and I just learned, literally while that audio was playing, that he's going to have to speak to the public. Well, obviously, he's the sitting mayor, and talk about what's happened here, and that's probably happened already. We'll catch you up next week with this, because our Friday program is already recorded, and we'll see what we can make of it, but disturbing. Let's get to the matter at hand. Let's get right into the middle of the Sloppy Joe sandwich here in the city of Providence. Here's the headline that has the mayor and the superintendent and moms and dads and the kids all aflutter, and that is the bus strike. And First Student and the Teamsters are really having a problem coming to grips with how pensions and retirement plans ought to be paid. Dee Dee Witman is a candidate for mayor. Welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
We'll go back and talk about your story a little bit later, but let's just dig right into it.
Sure.
What is your take on this current problem?
On the strike?
Well, just on the whole situation with the buses and the strike.
I think It's a disgrace. I don't know what to say. You said earlier that you didn't think he was to blame. I kind of think he is, that he took out the language, force majeure, that allowed this to happen. So he is the CEO
Took out the
of
language
the
in
city.
the force majeure is a contractual term.
Yeah.
You see it applying as what? And he took it out. Maybe I have to catch up on this. Tell me what you're
Well,
talking about.
supposedly it essentially allowed the bus company was going to have it in so that if there were terrorism, if there was they would be indemnified. So, and they, I guess, asked him to take it out, and they took it out. If it were in there,
Who would be indemnified?
The bus company. So they were going to, with that language, they were going to be allowed, if there were a strike, they would have to have had drivers. That's how I understood it to be. Drivers would have to, still the bus company would have to go on and provide bus service. So I guess they...
And you're saying that commitment was released by the language being removed from the contract?
The mayor signed a contract without it in there, and hence there's a strike, and now there are no drivers. So that
Okay.
is how we understand it.
Well, that's forgive me for with everything that's been going on in the world. That's something that got by me, and I'm going to have to follow up on that as
Please
well.
do.
Is that gotten a lot of coverage?
No.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
Actually, I haven't seen anything.
I think it was written about once.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in the press accounts that talks about
Yeah.
that particular thing, because the mayor has been able to articulate throughout all of this that this is something that is really between two other parties, not him, and that is, as this thing has moved on, he first said there was no other bus company that they could have sought out. Now he's got a 3-option plan, because it feels like enough's enough, and we can talk about those 3 options. That he
Well,
has.
enough, it should have been enough close to 2 weeks ago. So it's unbelievable again to me that as the CEO, as the leader of this city, when he knew this strike was coming and he had time to make contingency plans, he should have done that. I have spoken to numerous people. I spoke to Rhode Island Public Transit Authority. They said to me that if there were given lead time, they could have provided buses. Now, may have been a different issue with drivers, but they absolutely could have provided the buses.
Which company was this?
This is RIPTA.
Well, RIPTA already supplies, I mean, the high school kids already take RIPTA.
RIPTA, but they could have put elementary and middle school kids on there. I don't know if that would have been the right thing to do, but you would have had buses. You have rec centers which have buses. You have 11 rec centers, perhaps to help parents out.
I think there's a big difference between putting high school kids, allowing high school kids to, on their own, jump on the RIPTA buses, and third graders. That's a whole different ballgame.
All right, maybe you take a couple of parents, or you have the monitors on the bus with them. I'm not disagreeing with that. All I'm saying is that contingency plans should have been made. Again, so you have rec centers here. Parents are being inconvenienced. They're losing time at work. Maybe the rec centers could have opened up at 7 and the kids could be dropped off, and then they could have been staggered, being brought to school. Or if he had a relationship with the teachers, who are working without a contract, perhaps he could have asked the cities in Rhode Island if he could borrow their buses after they dropped their kids off, and you have a staggered time. It's up to the head person to explore all options, and for him to have said repeatedly he's staying neutral until today or yesterday tells me he's just not up to snuff.
All right, well, he's got 3 options now. One, to find a company to operate under an arrangement currently in place. One would be another option, to seek a fleet of buses, but not including personnel or management. The third would be a management company that would bring in, that would not be required to have a fleet, but would have drivers. We'll see if anybody responds to the RFP. You can put out a request for proposal. It doesn't guarantee that people are going to respond. The companies are going to respond to it.
And he also should have an RFP for the kids who are the need the handicap buses and the special needs kids, the IEP kids.
Yeah, that's been the biggest challenge is the IEP kids and the kids with disabilities who have got to get to school. All right, so bottom line, you don't think. All right, your premise is that I'm incorrect in my analysis, that it is his fault, that he could have prevented this dilemma.
His signature is on the contract.
Do you have a thought on, real quick, on what the resolve ought to be between these two entities in terms of the retirement plan that they keep squabbling over?
Well, I can't imagine why they want to go into a pension fund that is so heavily underfunded, but I can't get into the weeds of that, but I can tell you that's what my thought is. I don't know why they'd want to go into that.
That would be the Teamsters' request. All right, when we come back, we'll kind of go backwards and talk about how Ms. Witman has decided to embark on this project. Stay with us. So there are two people running for mayor in Providence. I mean, there was kind of a consensus amongst many that the Democratic primary was the end of the conversation. You know, Jorge Elorza handily won that, and Dee Dee Witman ends up in this conversation now. You got into this race exactly when?
The day the ballot was due.
Yeah, in June.
In June.
Right. I don't know that a lot of people were paying attention to that. I mean, obviously you've got a significant, good reputation in town. You've got an interesting story. Have you been floating this for a while? You know, is this like a last-minute surge? You've put some money in. Tell me what the background is on this.
It's really kind of a great story. So, close to 3.5 years ago, I met with two dear friends, and I mean, the handwriting seemed to be on the wall to me with the current mayor. And I said, you know what?
3.5 years ago, meaning 6 months into his tenure.
Yeah. And I said, I want to run for mayor. My friends nearly fell off their chairs. They were giggling so hard. And I just kept thinking about it, thinking about it. I love my city, and I feel that we're sort of losing the best of the city, and I feel as if we all deserve, every citizen deserves better, every resident. And my husband would say to me, run, run. And I would look at him as if he had 5 heads and say, are you crazy? You're paralyzed from the neck down, and you're in the hospital now every 3 months. And he died eventually. I don't mean it like that. He died.
No, I'm sorry for your loss. I know. It seems to me you were committed to your marriage and to taking care of your husband.
Absolutely, and he had a great run. Right. He truly had a great run, and he returned to work as a physician. The night before the ballot is due, I come home, and there's a letter from someone who worked with him in 1983, and she goes through a time continuum. And she says how wonderful it was to work with him. They worked on a grant, the first for-profit grant from the National Cancer Institute. And they were working late. It was due the following morning. Gary brought in the babysitter, took care of her baby. It was just lovely, personal. She talks to the
Talking about your husband.
Absolutely, right. And about them working together on the grant. Okay. Grant was finished. He flew down to Washington, submitted it. Long story short, she moved on. She was getting her master's, and they would bump into each other every now and then. Then they lost contact, and she got older, and she was having some neurological problem. And she Googled medical marijuana, and up popped Gary, who was a clinician. We're distributing medical marijuana, or seeing patients for it. And she saw that he had an accident, and she didn't know what to do, so she did nothing. And she's talking about she's writing the letter, and she says, I'm crying, because the one thing in life you can never get back is time, and what regrets she has. Then 2 years later, when she was ready to use medical marijuana, she Googles him again, and his obituary comes up, and she said that was it. And when I'm reading this letter, I said, that's it. I want no regrets in life. I feel I can do it. I want to do it, and I am here sitting with you telling you I am doing it. I'm running for mayor of Providence.
in addition to just that compelling conversation about how you came to it, I always ask this of every candidate for office. Are you running because you want to be the mayor, or are you running because you want to do something?
Oh, I want to do something.
And what is the branded do something? What are people going to recognize about what Dee Dee Witman wants to do?
I want to make this a safe, livable, and financially stable city. And I feel that we're on a path that's veering away from those three items. I want every resident here to have an opportunity. I think the schools are essential. I think that is a horror show at this point. How does a mayor not have a contract with its teachers for close to 2 years? And that, to me, is a big signal. That's a big tell. You'll never have a successful city if you can't educate its kids. In my day, public school was the great equalizer. You learned about your neighbor. You learned about different cooking. I mean, I left private school to go to classical in the olden days.
What about the negotiations do you think he's fallen down on? I mean, it's easy to say, hey, listen, you got to have a contract with your teachers. I mean, it takes two to tango, and the NEA and the AFT have not been the easiest parties around this place.
I'm not sure that's true. I hear he also hasn't been the easiest.
Well, he hasn't engaged the discussion as often as I think a mayor should. I mean, I think that's part of the dynamics of this.
So
but the nuances of the negotiation in your mind are what that need to be remedied and what you would do.
So let me just say this as an attitude. All right, you talk about coming together. He has an educational forum, and he talks about transformative education. Now, I don't know what that means because I was using transformative 10 years ago when we were redesigning something. He has an educational forum, and he doesn't include the teachers. That's sort of a slap in the face. So I'm not sure he's starting out on the right foot.
Do you know whether they were invited or not?
They were not invited.
Okay.
Okay, I know that for a fact.
Right, but you seem to be picking at things in the middle of. Tell me what the instrumental solve is with the teacher contract right now. What would you do?
I would certainly bring them to the table, and I would meet with them. Teachers today are not like the teachers you were.
Okay, so you pick up the pace of meeting. What is the thing that you think will resolve the contract?
Well, I think I haven't looked at their contract. I know that they want more money. Yeah. And I know that the teachers need to be paid to do the work that they're doing.
Well, pardon me.
I know you're looking for.
Well, but I don't know how you run for mayor criticizing the current mayor for not doing a job on the contract, and you haven't even read the contract. I mean, that doesn't sound like a serious run for mayor to me.
Oh, that's a very serious run for mayor. And I'm not privy to the nuts and bolts of the contract. I can tell you,
public.
I can tell you that they are not being met with and not being treated with respect by this current administration. They are not being met by him. They went for months without sitting down at the table. So,
yeah, well, it seems to me that this conversation begins and ends with getting together.
Correct.
Yeah, it seems to me that if you're running for mayor, you should have a point of view in terms of how to, once you get together, make a deal.
You have to make a deal. You have to. Your teachers,
taxpayers want to know what kind of deal you want to make on their behalf. Remember, this is a naturally adversarial relationship by its nature. It should be. There's got to be some friendly friction in this.
There should be friendly friction in everything, but there should also be the willingness to collaborate and to get to go. And I do believe that with the right mindset, you get to go. You need your teachers. You need your teachers to teach your students.
When we come back, Ms. Witman seems to be making a serious investment in this race. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. Dee Dee Witman is running for mayor of the city of Providence. She's an independent candidate, and you would think, I often, unfortunately, have to ask candidates for office to judge their legitimacy. I mean, who am I to ask about their legitimacy, right? But I think most of us judge legitimate campaigns by financial investment. It's too bad. It's the way the system works. Your top line, at least, is pretty impressive. For a short period of time, you reportedly got $500,000 plus that you're putting into this race, correct?
I put in.
Are you using it, or are you just putting it in the campaign to show it? There's a difference.
No,
There's a lot of
I
guys.
know
I've
there's
seen
a
a lot of
difference.
candidates. You put it in, you get whipped, you pull it out.
So we're starting to go through money pretty fast now. We're going to be on.
Are you up on the air?
We're
and all that
going
kind
to
of thing?
be next week. We filmed. We did a commercial. We're going to be advertising now. We're taking out billboards. We're going to be doing mailers. Yes, we're doing everything
Has anybody
you need to
given
do.
you any professional consultancy on the time it takes to establish a name in a short period of time against an incumbent? It seems to me that this is an uphill battle at best, simply because of the nature of incumbency and your lateness in the game.
We can do this. I get it. I get what you're talking about, but it's interesting that really, with everything that's going on with the other campaigns, this is the last two. You know, with your Senate races, with your gubernatorial races, they've been taking up a lot of the airwaves. He's sort of had the current mayor has sort of had a free ride since the primary was over.
Right.
And now's the right time.
But that's your challenge.
Yes.
That's your challenge. You've got to make that noise.
I have to run like
Squeaky
hell.
wheel gets the grease in a political race, right?
Right. I have to absolutely do everything I can possibly do, and I have the energy and the willingness and the head to do this. I want to do this. Go ahead, ask me some more.
I do. That's what we do here. We ask questions. Sometimes we pause and we think. I guess we're left with, I'm guessing that you'd take an invitation for the mayor to sit with you here if you wanted to share some time here as well. We'll ask the mayor if he wants to do that and brush up on some of the intricacies of the city of Providence. You know, I've always felt as Rhode Island goes, so goes Providence, but as Providence goes, so goes Rhode Island.
Right, absolutely.
So other than this patrolman union endorsement, which I think is significant, what organizational strength, we only have a minute here, what organizational strength are you bringing to the table to try to put this ball over the goal line?
Well, I'd certainly like to be endorsed by the teachers, and I'd certainly like to be endorsed by the firefighters. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I am meeting with them.
Taxpayers generally worry about a candidate that is I give you an A for transparency, that you'd like to seek their endorsements, but generally the taxpayers freak out looking for endorsements from the union organizations that cost them the most money. You understand that?
Yes, I do, and taxpayers should be freaking out that our crime is up so precipitously. Taxpayers should be freaking out.
I'm not sure the overall crime stats in the city are up so precipitously.
Yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are. We proved that in the debate Tuesday night. And all you have to do is look at the Providence police stats. Remember, there's different ways you measure it.
Yeah. Well, we want to do this, but why don't we do this? You and I will do the radio show at your leisure early next week.
I think we're scheduled next week.
So that we'll do some homework on those crime stats and we'll make that a primary conversation.
All right.
We wish you the best of luck.
Oh, that's it?
Well, that's it. Hey, listen, time flies when you're having fun on television.
Wait
a minute. I had more stories to tell you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Wonderful to sit with you.
And we'll see what the next few weeks bear, because time is ticking toward Election Day. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. We'll dig into these Providence issues more and more. If there's $500,000 being dumped into a campaign in a short period of time by an independent candidate, that means that she's serious. Now we have to check on some of the things that she asserts. I haven't done a lot of Mayor Lorz's bidding on this program, if you've been keeping scores, so we'll check on that. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio at 3 on WPRO. So glad you tuned in. Thanks for doing so.